occurred on Friday. Can change the matter in just in our city. Received information that he was armed, spotted the suspect, and followed him into a local business along the 3500 block of East Washington Avenue, where officers encountered the suspect. To best understand how Friday's events unfolded, I want to share more information about a homicide that occurred on Richard Street last week. Early Wednesday morning, witnesses reported hearing a loud domestic argument between a man and a woman. The witness reported being concerned when she did not see the woman later in that day. Ultimately, we were dispatched to do a welfare check on the home. Officers were able to see a woman, Miss Kristen Schmidt, face down in the apartment, and the officers forced entry. Pending toxicology reports, her preliminary cause of suspect. He and Christian were in a dating relationship when this incident occurred. Our department released a bulletin about him shortly before he was spotted near the business to talk and de-escalate who was armed and had displayed his weapon. An officer attempted to use a taser, but the taser was ineffective. Both Kopmeyer and the officer fired their weapon inside the gas station. Kopmeyer retreated to a bathroom where officers reported hearing 2 gunshots. Officers later found Mr. Kopmeyer dead in the bathroom of the store from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Because an officer fired their weapon, the Wisconsin Department of Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation is leading the investigation. Further information about what happened inside the business will come from that agency, and that includes any type of conclusions that or questions that you may have. Both MPD officers are on administrative leave, and DCI will release the names of those who are involved. One of the officers involved has been with the Madison Police Department for 13 years. The other police officer has been with the Madison Police Department for 4 years. Both are members of our SWAT team, and both recently underwent de-escalation training. We recognize that this is a traumatic event for many in our community. We had community members who had to run out of the store with their arms up. We had people living nearby seeing and observing a large police presence and our SWAT officers surrounding this business. We had drivers concerned about seeing a large police presence and streets blocked on East Wash during our busy rush hour. We hope that you will reach out to someone if you are struggling trying to make sense of this incident. I want to thank the officers, the brave men and women of the Madison Police Department, for their quick response minutes matter very much during these emergencies, and they are dangerous situations. I thank our officers for their bravery and for their courage. I also want to thank the officers who manned the perimeter for hours in the cold and snow, as well as our command staff members who came in to help organize this event. I want to give a special thanks to the employees of the business who worked with us to give us valuable information and also to ensure the safety of the customers. With me today is Ms. Shannon Berry. She works with victims of domestic violence. I'll allow her to come up and explain to you who she is and why I invited her. Ms. Berry.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, I'm Shannon Berry. I'm the Executive Director of DAYS, Domestic Abuse Intervention Services. I want to extend my deep appreciation to Chief Barnes for the invitation to be here today. Madison has lost 2 women to domestic violence in the last week within just a couple of days of one another. They leave behind family members, children, friends, and neighbors who loved them. These women are not just statistics. They were human beings living complex lives like the rest of us and doing the best that they could. Domestic violence is an epidemic everywhere, including here in Dane County. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence, physical or sexual assault by an intimate partner at some point in their lifetime. Domestic violence victims are 6 times more likely to be murdered by their abusers when attempting to leave the relationship than at any other time. And that is why it is so crucial as a collective community that we all work together to ensure that no matter where a victim or survivor seeks help, they are met with compassion and not blame, that they are believed and not judged, and that they are supported and not ignored. When we hear of tragedies like this, it can all seem very overwhelming and insurmountable. However, every person in our community has a role to play in addressing domestic violence. If you are worried about someone in your life, please reach out to them. Let them know that you care about them. Provide them with local resources. If you need help in figuring out how to approach someone that you're worried about, please call Days yourself at our 24-hour helpline, which is 608-251-4445, or our 24-hour text line, which is 608-420. One of our advocates is there for these people. Every person can be a voice of change standing up against domestic violence in all of its forms. Talk with young people in your life about what health Be a visible ally to those experiencing domestic violence, letting them know that the violence is not their fault and that help is available. Learn how to be an effective bystander, intervening when you hear or see harmful messages that support intimate partner violence in our community. And share information about resources available across Dane County from organizations like DAYS, Unidos Against Domestic Violence, the Rape Crisis Center, and others. And most importantly, if you see or hear something concerning and believe someone is being attacked, please call 911. You may save a life. Again, I wish to thank Chief Barnes for the invitation to be here today, and on behalf of all of us at DAYS, I also wish to thank every person at MPD for their continued work to support victims of domestic violence and their children. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take a few questions.
Chief, can you explain if one of the officers who fired at Kopmeyer, was he successful at striking Kopmeyer? So was Kopmeyer hit by a bullet?
Well, we'll have to wait until we see the reports from the medical examiner, but we believe that he was successful in firing that round. However, it was not incapacitating.
Okay.
Can you say anything more about the tip that you got that the person, Kopmeyer, was in that area? Who called it in or who told you?
Well, I can't tell you who told us that, but officers and detectives have been working on it the entire week. We had worked with other law enforcement agencies. We had found the vehicle that was involved in another jurisdiction and just started putting the pieces together and really calling anyone who may have been in that circle. It could have been people in the circle that wasn't aware, which is why you want to give them a call and say, hey, we're looking for this person. Do you know anything about it? And it was almost simultaneously from the time that we were where we thought he may be to the time that we spoke to someone that knew that he was there. So yes.
Were either of the 2 officers who are now on leave ever discharged before with the department?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Can you say if they're men or women, the officers?
The officers are men. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any other questions for Shannon?
For Shannon.
Yes, yes.
In the last week, there were 2 other women, 2 women in total in the last week. Were they, did they live in Dane County? Were they Madison women?
So they were both women who lived in Madison. One was murdered in Beloit on February 20th, and by an abuser that she had filed a temporary restraining order against. Unfortunately, the injunction restraining order was not granted. However, it's my understanding that she was not able to make it to the injunction hearing, which is very common that they'll dismiss injunctions. But she was actually murdered in Beloit.
From Wisconsin, sorry.
Sure, yeah. And Chief, can you follow up with that?
Sure.
Did MPD know of Kopmeyer as a previous abuser? Was he on your radar at all?
He was not on our radar, but we did some research and found that there was one additional call on Christmas Day to the house. Officers responded. He was not there. We did not encounter him, but officers did refer those charges to the district attorney. But unfortunately, the victim in this case refused to cooperate. Therefore, the charges were dropped. And that does happen from time to time. We do encourage victims to go through with the process because it's so very, very important. Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Sure. I think that it's very common for victims in these situations to recant. So there might be a situation that's highly volatile where they may reach out to law enforcement, and then when law enforcement arrives, they might have had second thoughts. So even from that moment of reaching out to 911 and then thinking through it, I think it's really important to understand that domestic violence does not happen in a vacuum. It is an issue that takes a long time. I mean, no domestic violence or no violent relationship starts with violence. It starts with the honeymoon stage, and there's typically a long history. Abusers work very hard to isolate their victims from other people so that they're kind of the only person in that person's head, and they start, people start internalizing those messages. So unfortunately, recanting is not uncommon, and there's a lot of reasons for that, including safety. As I mentioned, victims are 6 times more likely to be murdered when trying to leave the situation than at any other time, and they have likely heard from their abusers, if you tell anyone, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your parents, your children, your companion animals, I'm going to hurt people in your life. And so those messages can start really becoming very pervasive. So unfortunately not uncommon.
What were the charges that were dropped after that December?
There would have been domestic violence charges.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was a domestic disturbance call.
That's correct.
On Christmas with the same victim who
That's
was
correct.
killed Wednesday.
That's correct.
Do you know
Thank you
how long
so-
they were dating for? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you know how long they were dating for?
I do not, no, I do not.
How did officers respond to the other customers who were inside the Quick Trip when this event happened?
How did they respond to the
Were there
other?
other customers involved in?
Yeah, we consider there were other customers involved. When the officers came in, I mean, you really don't need the officers to tell you to leave, but everyone got out with their hands up. They followed the instructions of the officers, and everyone cooperated, which made everything go really, really smooth.
And you said it was a quick event. Why was then East Washington shut down for multiple hours during rush hour traffic in that time?
Well, the quick event from the time we discovered that he was there to the time the officers encountered him, but overall, it was definitely not a quick event. We wanted to make sure that, number one, the suspect was indeed incapacitated, so we used some technology to do that. But no, we wanted to make sure that everything, and again, it's a crime scene. We don't know how long it extends, and so we wanted to make sure that we were doing our due diligence before we turned it over to DCI.
Were there children inside of the Quick Trip at the time?
I'm not aware. All right. Thank you.